Must be Cruella, your dearly devoted old schoolmate.
Cruella de Vil. That's it.
Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Tiana.
And this is Next Door Villain,
a podcast where we uncover the villains to discover their humanity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Next Door Villain podcast. We have a very special episode for you today. I'm really excited to talk about one of my favorite villains, and actually the very first villain we ever did an episode on. We're revisiting today, and we're doing that because we have a very special guest, someone who is, I would maybe venture to say, a Cruella expert. We are here today with Erik Thompson, aka Gay Cruella. So welcome, Erik.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Sir Joe. Quite the expert. Wow, I'm flattered.
Yeah, and before we dive into Cruella, I was hoping maybe you could just say a brief little intro for our audience, who you are, and also I forgot to ask you before we started recording your pronouns as well.
Oh wow, so inclusive. I love it. My pronouns are he, him, his, and sometimes I guess in my really gay Cruella moments, she, her, hers. And background, I am just a local hot mess gay who really enjoys life, who was born in as a classic millennial 90s kid who loved Disney and live in the Midwest, work in corporate America, and would love to potentially think of myself as a badass boss bitch, but I guess we'll see. So more to come. But yeah, that's just kind of who I am, and that's it. Yeah.
One of the reasons that I wanted to talk with you was I had sort of seen your page because you were following us, and I was really taken by some of your Cruella inspired looks, which I think are really beautiful and striking and sort of dark at the same time, which I love. So I'm sure we'll get into this more deeply later on, but where does the Gay Cruella thing come from?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, you were really too flattering over here. Where does Gay Cruella come from? I do get that question quite a bit, and it feels like such a complex yet so simple question, I guess, or answer in my mind. Where it comes from, simply put, is that ever since I was super little, as a really little kid, I always absolutely loved Cruella de Vil. I looked up to her and admired her like she was the goddamn Queen of England. I was like, she is so badass. She is like working herself and living herself and just being her best life self. And I just absolutely admired and adored her level of just unapologetic, ruthless confidence. And the story I kind of tell with my coming out story is that as I kind of went through the, difficult, uncharted waters of like the coming out journey that is and is today and is in the past for a lot of the people of the LGBTQI plus Pride plus community, as I kind of came out, I think that this memory kind of resurfaced when I was put in those testing life trials. And kind of for me, my discovery moment and looking back on my 20s and my coming out journey, I feel like I had two coming outs. I feel like I came out in college as gay, but as I kind of maneuvered through the tidal waves of my coming out journey and my 20s, I'm still in my 20s though, like for a few more weeks, I'm hanging on before my like dirty 30. But anyways, as I've like navigated through my 20s, what's really been, I think, resonant for me as I look back on my evolution of self kind of journey has been just recognizably, I guess, Gay Cruella. It's actually something that I even joked about with college friends or even friends that I've met through my job and whatever, and just kind of navigating my 20s. It would just be kind of like a side joke that I would comment on, kind of sometimes kick off. Yeah, I'm basically like Gay Cruella, if you will. It's been just a very like whimsical way to articulate, I guess, my sense of self. And it's just been extremely weirdly like resonant and how it's just fitting to me overall, and like not just in who I am today, present day, but who I've been, I think, over the course of my holistic life journey and path. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was a good explanation. And it's sort of something I've been thinking a lot about in my own life, which is like, why do I like the things that I like? And what does that mean about me? That like sort of the things that we're drawn to and the things that we love, we're drawn to them for a reason. And so they sort of reflect something about ourselves, even if we don't realize it. So to me, it kind of sounds like that might be something that's gone on with you and Cruella over the years, is that you've probably seen something within her, whether you were always aware of it or not. Is that something you felt when you were younger? Like,
oh, I love it. Like, such a great way of putting that. I mean, so eloquent, Sir Joe. Yes, I mean, for sure. It was something that I feel like I very subconsciously kind of knew that I was so admiring or whatever, like, is that the right word? Admiring of
sure,
her.
why not?
Ever since like 3 years old. But it's been, I guess, a lot more of like a conscious kind of, it's not a decision for me. It's more of an acceptance. It's more of like this, like, oh my God, wait, I'm basically the gay version of her. Holy shit. And yes, I am a terrible and extremely aggressive, reckless driver. And yes, I actually do love furs. And in my corporate career journey, I've grown up and worked in both the fashion and beauty industries. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting, kind of same as her. And now I live in my new home, an artist loft downtown that I have built into Gay Cruella's lair. And I actually even have an 8-month-old Dalmatian puppy. So I am really, really embracing the full innerness of this life. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I hope this is okay to say, but for our listeners out there, if you want to see some of Erik's like awesome Cruella vibes, Gay Cruella on Instagram, I think is your handle. Is that right?
Yep. Pretty simple.
Straight to the point. And so I'm having a hard time not sort of delving into all these things that you're bringing up already. But before we get too deep into that, I thought maybe we could do a brief run through of Cruella's history and how she's grown over time and changed and sort of the different iterations of her.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited. Take it away.
And sprinkle in whatever knowledge you have, because I'm sure you have information I don't. But she was created in 1956 in the novel The 101 Dalmatians by Dodie Smith. I have not read it. Have you read that book?
I've only read 5 books since college.
Cool.
But I've like scratched the surface of like chapter 1 and 2. So, but not all of it.
Yeah. From what I understand, she's very similar to the character we see in the Disney film that came out a few years later. She's from a wealthy family and she lives this sort of lavish lifestyle. She has some sort of like similar descriptors to the way we know of her with her like black and white thing. One thing I thought was cool is that it is sort of a point in the book that she keeps her last name even after she gets married, which is more common today, but I think in 1956 was more of a statement than it is now.
Yes, queen. First of all, I just have to jump in there and be like, so hashtag team feminism. I just like, yes, I love that part about her.
That and like she breaks a lot of stereotypes. Again, being like a powerful rich businesswoman, and then also like choosing not to have children, which was sort of a bizarre thing to do at that time period as a married woman, I guess.
Agreed.
So then we get to 1961. Disney releases 101 Dalmatians based on the novel. It's very similar. They cut out the husband, which I think was totally fine. Cruella was played by Betty Lou Gerson. That's who to me is like sort of like really the iconic voice of Cruella was that from that very first movie. It was like so both like sinister and grating, but also like
silky and smooth and endearing and attractive. I don't know. Those are my adjectives, but
Okay, I agree that it's both like harsh and grating, but also sexy and attractive at the same time, which it might be some of the intrigue about her. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm just just rambling.
Naturally. Also, oh my God, one thing I forgot to mention or input for you was on the Jodie Smith novel.
Mhm.
Fun fact: her husband was a furrier, and that's why a big reason why she married him. A furrier, yeah. So like he was, I guess, I don't know what that profession like even means, but like I don't know if he was like the one to be doing the skinning himself, but he like owned a fur company where he sold furs. And then also she sparked the idea of this book back in whatever the 50s. I don't know. When she was just having like coffee or tea with her gal pal or something one time, and some Dalmatians walked by, and her gal pal jokingly yet almost like very like inner bestie gal pal talk, like jokingly was just like, God, wouldn't they make a great fur? And Jodie Smith said it was like in that moment that it just like totally sparked her inspiration of like, oh my God, wait, making a fur coat out of Dalmatian fur? And I don't know if it was like her bestie gal pal that was like a source of inspiration for Cruella, but it just kind of birthed from there. And I've always thought that was kind of a funny story.
Yeah, I could very much sort of like see someone like sitting there and sort of making that side comment. In my mind, she's like just like lounging on a big sofa, like smoking a cigar, and like side glance out the window, and it's just like, oh, that'd be a good fur coat.
Yes.
That might be a fantasy I just made up, but that's what popped into my head.
It's exactly how I visualize it too.
One really notable thing about the animated film, which I didn't realize, is that it's Disney's very first animated film that takes place in the modern day.
Oh yeah, and actually, what's interesting was Walt Disney. Oh my God, maybe I am more of an expert just because I'm like so obsessed. I watch like,
yeah, you might be.
And shit. Like, but like I'm so whatever. This is why I'm a hot mess, crazy, whatever. Walt Disney, did you know? Here's the tea to spill on this one. He actually really did not like 101 Dalmatians when it was being created, because it was like, to your point about it was set in the modern day, and he was he didn't like the stylisticness of the actual animation design, and he actually didn't want to proceed with it, and he actually was starting to kind of wash his hands of it, but I guess there was enough people who were that passionate and convicted with the approach of how it was so kind of modernized in its true animation and in its kind of storyline, that he ended up moving forward and admitting later on, I think he did get it, giving credit and admitting to this like lead design or whatever 101 Dalmatians maker guy, that I made a mistake and I was wrong. It was one of the most successful films of their entire franchise. It's a fun
Don't you
story.
just love when rich people have to admit they're wrong?
I mean, yes.
It's my favorite thing. That's all right. They're rich.
It is terrible, right?
I was sort of wondering if part of the reason Cruella became so iconic so quickly, and still to this day, is part of that reason because it took place in the modern day, that she was sort of the first villain that was sort of real. It wasn't off in like some fantasy world, like Alice in Wonderland or like the fairy tale world, but she was like someone who could actually exist. And so I'm wondering, like, first of all, if that made her like more scary, but at the same time also like made her relatable to a lot of people who didn't necessarily see themselves in the like more or less boring hero characters.
Fairyland, right? Yeah.
The heroes, the princesses, they offer a certain kind of person. And let's be honest, like who really has like who's really as good as
relatability?
Yeah. And so I think she offered a character who was both interesting and relatable in ways that no other character had been before, because she was a portrait of a potentially real person that a lot of people could see themselves in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I very much would agree with that for sure. And the fact that, I mean, just to put the cherry on top of it, like that she's just so extra and like fabulous and fierce, and she owned that camera even though she wasn't truly on the camera. Like, she owned it, she worked it, she slayed it, she gave zero fucking shit, and she just was a standout in her personality, in her animation design, and she just, slay all day, honey.
Yes. Even more incredible is that how inspiring I think that animation was for the character's entire history. So that brings us to 1996, Glenn Close.
Oh my God. I mean, Glenn Close, hot fucking damn. Like, I think isn't like, maybe this is like just a joke in the gay world, but like, I feel like I see the meme all the time of like, give Glenn Close her Oscar already or something like that. I don't know if that's like still true. I'm not known for being like super pop culture. I
think I've seen that before.
Like, she's definitely an OG, and she just like really totally brought to life the like core essence, the bitchy, the beautiful, the wickedness, the desirable and appealing kind of nature that is Cruella to the live action screen. And I mean, her outfit, fabulous. And she just rocked it, and just like with her sly kind of confident cockiness, like she just totally crushed it. And I was so impressed. And did you know, fun fact, she actually became one of the main producers for the latest modern rendition of Emma Stone's Cruella. Not to get ahead of myself, but that's a fun fact.
No, I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's like a queen passing the queen.
Yeah. What I really liked about this film is that it positioned her as like the owner or like the head of the fashion house versus like just like a wealthy heiress. I thought that was a good move to make and really fit her personality.
Oh, for sure, Joe. Yeah, great point. Because the difference is, in the original animation, Cruella was Anita's like quote unquote like dearly beloved schoolmate, whereas in the live action with Glenn Close, yeah, you're spot on. She was the head of the House of De Vil fashion company and Anita's boss. So like that was an interesting shift in dichotomy that they made, which I thought it was a really interesting translation and take that kind of really helped evolve and elevate Cruella's character and put her in a whole new badass bitch light, for sure.
Yeah, I think it was an improvement for her. And there were a lot of reasons I think to empathize with her more in this film, and one of them was Anita was a really talented artist who wanted to leave her job just to like stay at home, and Cruella was like really pissed at her for that and was like trying to like sort of lift her up and tell her like that she should be a career woman. She shouldn't just go be at home.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want to. Now I'm also like I don't want to shame her for making that decision.
That's exactly what Cruella was doing. Cruella was just point blank shaming the fuck out of her, which hell yeah. I mean, I think her quote was something super badass and bitchy, like, again, hashtag team feminism over here, where she's like, more women have been lost to marriage than war, famine, and disease combined. And I was like, damn, like, so she's an ultra kind of, again, maybe anti-hero, call it a little bit, but like, and maybe, yeah, sure, extremely ruthless, reckless, and perhaps, but she definitely stands up at least on the feministic front, for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely like anti like shaming people for doing what they want to do, but I'm just having a hard time understanding Anita leaving her like great job to go be a nanny at home for her kids when she's already paying for a nanny at home for her kids.
Well, we are two white men talking about females, and so I agree. I can't relate either, but I'm sure there is good reason.
Yeah, and while her husband is a poor musician as well. Anyways, I'm probably saying things I shouldn't.
So you're getting very logical. Oh my god, I love this.
Yeah. All right, I'll stop pursuing that line of logic. So next up is
To jump in, don't forget, and I would have to asterisk on this one that this may be my all-time favorite Cruella, which is an unpopular opinion, I would admit. Victoria Smirnoff, I'm not going to get her last name right, but I mean Victoria S, whatever, from Once Upon a Time's rendition of Cruella. And she's literally the Cruella that I used the most in my like texting group chat meme gifs and stuff. Like, she is just so fierce, fabulous, and she really looks the part as like the true human version of the OG animated Cruella. And personally, she's just my favorite. That I feel like my core essence of Gay Cruella-ness is just like so much her and her translation of Cruella that I love her so much. So yeah.
Now I feel really bad because I have watched a lot of Once Upon a Time, but I don't think I ever made it to Cruella. What does it add anything to her storyline or her character that we don't get in the other stories?
Yeah, it has absolutely nothing to do about really Anita at all. But like, anyways, but the kind of differentiation of the Once Upon a Time Cruella's storyline was, it kind of told a little bit more of her backstory for the first time, or for one of the first times, of how she grew up, and actually like true scenes where she was growing up and being, what's the term? Kind of like not beaten down physically, but just like emotionally
abused.
Battered and crushed, by her mother, who was actually the true evil villain, who birthed what you could call the Villainess that you see today in Cruella. And how her mother like locked her up in the attic of their huge giant mansion, and she just became so unattached or detached, or whatever the term is, from the world, and ended up connecting with some guy and seeing and being kind of like whisked away through like her window and sneaking out and stuff, and going out in the 1920s, like the roaring 20s era of the flapper style, like clubs and speakeasies, and seeing the world for the first time, and ends up realizing, well, what the hell, this is the life that I want to live, and I want to take over, like kind of the moment where she finds her confidence. And I think then you could argue where she overextends that confidence into cockiness and becomes a villain, but where she finds her confidence and is like, no, I'm going to live my life how I want to live my life, and like really taking ownership of the realization of who she is and where she wants to go and who she wants to be, and saying like, no, screw you, mom, I'm done with your shit, kind of a thing, and ends up discovering powers that she has, which LOL is like a very different version of Cruella, because she never has actual like powers. But I mean, for the sake of Once Upon a Time, all these characters have powers, which is great. And Cruella's power in this series is that she is able to like blow green air, smoke or something, and like control all animals. And so she grew up with 3 Dalmatians in her household, and she like blew this like green smoky air or whatever at the Dalmatians, and like they turned on her mother and ate her alive.
Oh, great. I thought this was like a family friendly show for the most part. That's
it's dramatic. I feel like it was kind of created for like the millennials who would totally like basked and bathed in Disney their whole lives. I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for eaten alive by the dogs.
Oh, well, honey, most people aren't ready for Cruella. So
yeah, I mean, in case our listeners started to wonder if she was actually a villain, she does actually do some bad things, even though we love her. And that those things aren't okay, but we can love her regardless. So then the Cruella that came out last year, 2021, which I really enjoyed. I thought there were a few rather silly plot points that didn't need to be there, but overall, I thought it was just like a fun romp through her origin story. What did you think about the new film?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, it was supposed to come out in 2019. I was like so freaking excited when I heard about it in maybe like 2017, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even have like friends sending me like the YouTube teasers or whatever, like, oh my God, can you believe? So I was waiting for this movie for such a long freaking time. I'm not a patient person, but holy shit, this really tests my patience. And I was so excited, and I ended up renting out a private screening at a theater for premiere night for me and all my friends. Like, oh my God, of course. And I came in like cautiously optimistic, but just like so excited because I was like, oh my God, this is like a lifetime movie for me. Like, oh my God, I've never been more excited. I mean, even more so than like, remember like standing out in like whatever high school, college for all like the Harry Potter releases at midnight, like for no reason. This is like that for me, but like take that and multiply it by like billions. And I really did not know what I thought about their casting decision of Emma Stone. I was like, I feel like if anything, I would have done like a Margot Robbie moment over here. But I mean, I guess she's so tied to like Harley Quinn. But I don't know, like Emma Stone, I just couldn't get like, okay, she's a fantastic actress, but I couldn't get like some of her other like past characters out of my head when I'm thinking Cruella de Vil. I'm like, this takes a certain type of person to be able to translate, and I'm hoping they don't just go to some commercialized, franchisable, whatever, well-known actress just because she has a big name. So I'm not giving Emma Stone the credit she deserves. I'm teeing this up though, because I walked out of that movie just blown away, and she fucking crushed it for me. Like, she just blew me away at how she was able to really captivate the essence of who Cruella truly is, the good, the bad, the utter ugly, and the combined dichotomy of the black and white nature, much beyond her hair, but in her kind of heart, I would say, and in her being of who she is, that she does have a lot of this dark, evil, wicked, obsessed nature about her, of her like black energy. But she also has these spots of white energy that kind of shine through, where she is endearing, she is appealing, she is, fierce, fabulous, flamboyant, independent, and passionate. And I would say, very like unapologetically, authentically herself, as like a leader of self-love, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, I was also skeptical when I heard that she was cast for the role, but I think she did really well and played really well again across from Emma Thompson as the villain of the film, I guess you would call her.
Oh my God.
And just like visually striking, a lot of fun in so many ways. Very like sort of a punk rock kind of 80s punk rock kind of vibe.
70s.
Or 70s, is that it? Yeah,
it was like set in like 70s of kind of like the punky scene of London. Kind of the underbelly-ish. Well, I mean, like, I guess the aristocratic high end of like the fashion scene, but also the underbelly of the punk rock scene.
Yeah, so that's the short but actually very long history of Cruella through all the different movies and shows she's been in. So now we can really dive into the empathy part. So we've been saying a lot of good things about Cruella. She is in fact a villain who, when I start to look closely at her, it's like, how much of a villain is she really? She wants to murder the puppies. So that's pretty bad, right? But if you take the puppy murdering out of her story, like, what does that leave us with?
Oh my God, great question. I would agree. I totally have like an inner softy like heart for dogs. And so I would have to say, yes, that's not like the greatest thing in the world you could be doing is like killing poor little puppies. But yeah, I mean, for me, when I say like, yeah, I relate to Cruella, I would say killing the puppies aside, I basically relate to almost everything about her. But yeah, if you really do strip that element and layer out, she's really no different than any other very obsessed, overly obsessed, passionate, convicted human, and driven in what she's doing and why she's doing it, and knowing who she is. And so you could argue so many people are similar in that way and are driven beyond belief to not let one thing get in their way to accomplish or achieve, what they're going for, what they're striving at. But yeah, I would say, like, to me, it's really the line drawn is just the puppy killing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read a really interesting article, which I'll post in the episode notes for this episode on observer.com. So I'll just read right from the article. It says, Cruella is the grotesque antagonist because she wants to kill the dogs, but more broadly, she's the villain because she is anti-family, drawn in elaborate towering gowns, which suggests the look of an opulent drag queen. Cruella has no husband and no children. She's a caricature of women who reject motherhood and childbirth as she plots to murder puppies for her own selfish luxury. So I thought that was interesting, that like when we when we take the puppy killing out of it, she's really villainous because she represented something that was sort of like counter to the idea of what like a woman should be, or like what a family should be in regular life. It's sort of ironic or funny that those qualities, which were supposed to sort of make her appear villainous, are now the same qualities, I think, that a lot of people see within her and are connecting with and responding to it and excited about.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very much so. Definitely on that vein, like just note, this is why I think one reason why I really just admire and respect the hell out of her is because she was swimming upstream the current of life. Like she was going against the grain. She was being projected as a seemingly so-called villain because she wasn't meeting the arbitrary social norm expectations that the world had just superficially constructed around her. And so I would say definitely the fact that she was saying, oh, I'm going against what world environment is telling me to do and to be. The fact that then becomes villainous is asinine, in my opinion. I actually think it would be extremely heroistic and or even beyond that. I would say protagonistic for breaking that old world wheel at its norm or at its core, flipping that script and rewriting that narrative for herself and in the way that she wants to live her life for herself, not to anyone else's expectations put upon her.
Mm-hmm. And Disney sort of has a history of doing this with their characters. And it's sort of one of those things where it's annoying that their villain characters are often sort of portrayed as counter to what would be, I don't know, stereotypically the like normal good person. That their villains are a little bit different. And I think of Ursula and of Scar, who like don't fit in with the rest of their groups because they're different in some way. And so it's
which is, I think, like the beautiful thing to celebrate about villains in general is that, yeah, they are for the most part, and in a lot of ways, like you're just saying, cast out or projected to be different than others, but in many ways are actually just trying to lead the way in swimming upstream the current or going against the grain of their own lives and the, environments that they are put in a different direction rather than just being a follower or kind of just getting swept along and just living just to live in accordance of what others truly think and believe.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to use those differences to portray them as villains, but really what they've done is made a more interesting and nuanced character, and they stand out and they're like so recognizable and relatable because next to the other boring hero characters in the film, they like actually have something interesting about them, which like sort of leads into this and this idea that Tiana and I have discussed on a lot of episodes, but maybe you can lend some insight that we as like cis straight folk maybe don't have, which is this idea of queer coding and villains, which Disney really has a history of. And I think Cruella may be the beginning of that. Is that something that you recognize?
I know very well about. I am very well versed in this topic. Yes, I mean, hell yeah, Cruella's gay as fuck. No, she's not. But she definitely leads with like that, you know, old school Lady Gaga, like gay energy, and I'm all about it. I'm here for it. Yeah, I would say, I think like similar, and I love that, like bringing up the gay point, I think that that is truly one big component of also why I so much relate to Cruella, and or have always related to Cruella ever since I was like 3 years old. As I look back about this like relatability and like why I've kind of somehow realized or kind of evolved into what I self-proclaim and call as Gay Cruella. Cruella and many villains are cast aside, are put in, you know, in a position where they have more of the world against them than the world with them. And they need to become and feel this sense of strength within them where they are able to fight and persevere and break through kind of all that's kind of, you know, raining either down upon them or around them. And they need to be able to be that pathfinder to be different. And they need to find that sense of understanding, acceptance, assurance, confidence within themselves to be that fueling energy to persevere and push through, you know, for right, wrong, or indifferent. They have to be fighters. They have to be able to overcome these challenges. And in the gay world, a lot of us can understand and relate in the form of coming out, where we are put in positions where we're technically still not even, hopefully Gen Z maybe like disagrees, but we're still in a position where we don't fit the general understanding or norm of what culture and society have built up to be for so long, that, oh, when you're born, you are a girl or a boy, and you are, you know, oh, is it a boy or a girl? Is it, you know, or you're assigned male or female at birth, and you are just expected and understood to be interested in the opposite sex growing up. And, you know, even as little children, adults will joke cutely as they think like, oh, did you, you know, hey, little girl, like, oh, you're seeing that boy? Do you have like a boyfriend? Like, oh my God, how cute. So it's just like this, it's just this norm that we believe that, and then we project on ourselves and our kids and all the people around us, younger generations, that the norm is what society has told us to be. And so for us gays and or LGBTQI plus humans out there, I would say we definitely have had to have that almost seemingly villainistic experience where we do feel like there's more of the world against us than there is with us, and that we do have to find that strength and that armor and shields and whatever to build ourselves up to be able to break through and fight back and overcome that seemingly kind of source of resistance around us.
I'm curious if I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I'm curious if a hero character could like be relatable in that way. Do you know what I'm kind of getting at?
Oh, you're so sweet. And okay, so you're it's like my soapbox moment. Of course. So as a self-proclaimed villain over here, like literally Gay Cruella, but also hashtag Team Lannister, hashtag Team Slytherin. I'm literally in Slytherin sweatpants right now. I'm basically like the gay older brother to Draco Malfoy that he never had. But anyways, I have always related to the outcast or the misunderstood and the villain. And so when I hear the term hero, as in I think about like the Starks and the Gryffindors over here, ew, like eye roll moment, because I always associate it myself from the villainistic, I guess, if you will, lens. I associate the term hero and associate it with being so self-righteous and so pompous and arguably, like, in my opinion, a lot of times driven with the motive and intent to be desired and appealed and looked up to by others But I think that's truly selfish at the end of the day. Like, I think what's honestly selfless is I would kind of like boil down, rather than saying hero or villain, I would say like antagonistic versus protagonistic. And I think it also, and it kind of simply boils it down into selfish versus selfless. I do believe that you can be a protagonistic villain, and I do believe you can be an antagonistic hero. They're not just mutually exclusive, because there are many times where these so-called villains actually are driven out of positive intent and have what some might think of as these anti-hero qualities, where they really are trying to be selfless in just being a disruptor for change. And on the other hand, you can be a seemingly so-called hero where your motive at the end of the day is just selfish, in the fact that you want to be admired and deemed as, you know, the idol, whatever. Oh my God, I'm bad at words. You want to be like idolized by others. Like, how fucking selfish is that? My God, like, get over yourself. Meanwhile, us Slytherins over here are not, I mean, yeah, we're bitchy, but I don't know, like, we know that we're bitchy though. Like, we're not over here trying to get people's admiration or like idolize. I don't know. That's where I struggle with all of like I'm the hero, I'm the savior, everyone's cheering for me, and you know, hurrah and yay and happily ever after. Like, I just have always found that quite honestly repulsive.
Yeah. One thing that I've sort of come to realize as we've recorded over 70 episodes of this podcast covering a wide range of villains, it seems like a lot of times the difference between the quote unquote hero and villain of the story comes down to like circumstance and privilege. It's like a good chunk of the villains that we see in film and television now, they've become villains because they didn't have the support they needed at certain times in their life. And so that's sort of pushed them into villainous things, and I'm never going to like justify or say that it's okay to like murder or like do bad stuff. But what I am constantly saying is like, so many of these people that we call bad people, if someone had just like been there for them or like been supportive or had like seen them when they were younger, that they would be fine. And then we're like celebrating these other people who had all the privileges and all the support and are out managing to do good things with it. And it's like, well, yeah, how could, like, if anything, they should be like disappointing for not doing more with what they've got because they had such an easy ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of almost like the nature versus nurture argument of are people like born or bred as villainous?
Yeah, and I don't know where I stand on that necessarily, but
think so. Yeah.
But
no, I know basically when you're saying the circumstantial component, you know, if someone were to have been there or because they, you know, were, you know, cast into a type of destructive environment or something like that, they become by nature or through the nature component more evil or villainous. But
yeah, or that even aside from nature and nurture, it's like we sort of make up what's right and wrong in the world. I mean, obviously there are some easy things you can point to as like, oh, that's a bad thing to do, but
I could not agree more.
Particularly I think Cruella is a particularly good example of how a lot of the things that she, again, besides the dog killing, a lot of the things that she does and the way that she acts are villainous only because we've decided that that's not how a woman is supposed to act.
Exactly. And that's exactly why I personally, I mean, I was even like ranting to my therapist about this one time because she was just like trying to like peel apart my, I guess, onion inside. And I was like, honey, I don't believe in right versus wrong or good versus bad, because that's just all based on and deemed to be by definition in accordance or not in accordance with these arbitrary, superficial social norms that have been already built around us and are projected upon us by the world externally. And we're just products of our own environment. And so where I struggle, where I have my point of resistance is, I do believe that if you cause harm or hurt to someone, then yeah, that's not great. And you should take ownership and accountability to that. But I don't believe in just these terms of, oh, that's bad or that's wrong. And if you're hurtful to someone, yeah, that's like understandably not great and not ideal. And so then it again kind of to me boils down to and ties back to the selfish versus selfless. Like instead of good versus bad or right versus wrong, is what you're doing truly selfish or truly selfless? Is your intent and motive at the end of the day and the bottom line for your own benefit? Or were you perhaps, and this is again why I kind of love Cruella and relate to her, is I tend to personally in my life hurt others through my recklessness and ruthlessness and my like sharp edges and silver tongue because I'm just stubborn and naive and careless, but I don't truly mean to hurt others. It's just kind of like my own, glitter and hellfire flamethrowers, if you will, just getting a little too extra and hot around the edges and whatever. But when I do slash and burn people around me, when I don't truly mean it, I think that, yeah, if I'm hurting someone, I agree that's not right. That's not good. And so that's when I draw the line. That's where I draw the line. But I don't believe in just following suit in accordance with whatever the world around us projects as good versus bad and right versus wrong.
Yeah, well, if there's one thing that like the history of humankind has taught us, it's that we've gotten right and wrong incorrect many times over.
That's hilarious. Oh my God. We've gotten right and wrong before. Lol.
Yeah. Great. So yeah, Cruella, awesome, iconic. If I had one critique on her as a person, if she's so rich, why did she hire the most pathetic thieves in town?
I would say probably power, trust, maybe convenience. I mean, not easy to always like suddenly and easily or quickly find two people that are willing to do your dirty work, like exactly what she was needing in that moment.
That's true. And if we're to believe that the new Cruella film is canon, then they are two of her longest friends as well. I thought it was, I found an article, Forbes used to do a 15 richest fictional villains list.
Oh yeah, wasn't she like number 8?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but she was up there, and it was her wealth was close to $1 billion.
Hell yeah, queen.
So that exhausts kind of the main things I wanted to touch on. Is there anything else you wanted to toss in about Cruella?
No, I mean, I think that obviously I am super passionate and obsessed and love her very much. I would just say, like, to me, I think that a lot of these interpretations and translations of villains, I absolutely just love. Like, I mean, whether it's pop culture, whether it's, life around us, whether it's just understanding ourselves as who we are through, articulate, potential, whimsical muses. Like, I always have really admired, and one reason why I love your podcast is that it's just so interesting and intriguing to kind of peel away the intricate nature or complex nature of villains, because there can be so much more than meets the eye. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of times what ends up being some of the most hardening moments for these quote unquote so-called villains in their own lives and experiences is when people do end up writing them off so quickly or scoffing at them and, walking away with just based on, judging a book by its cover. And I think that that's what is so great about challenging kind of that mentality and perspective of empathizing with others or empathizing with specifically villainistic people to kind of help put that into practice in your own life and to apply is that, and if you are willing, strong enough, or bold and daring enough to be able to reach out to those Black hearts out there, you may find that many more are bigger or warmer or softer than you might have just assumed. And so I do love the perspective of just kind of trying to challenge ourselves to think differently, really, about what is a villain. And I love it.
Yeah. And I'll always argue that empathy is valuable, and it can help you to come to like someone that you didn't think you would like, but it also doesn't have to do that. Like, it's also valuable to understand someone and not like them as well. Like, you don't have to like everybody, but empathizing with them is inherently valuable, both to learn things about yourself and also to recognize things that you don't like in other people and how you can prevent that from happening, or how you can support them, help them to make better decisions that aren't going to hurt people. But not having that knowledge and not digging deeper doesn't really get you anywhere, except for angry confrontations.
Right. Like, don't date the same exes that you dated in the past, honeys.
Or at least if you do, think about them, try to empathize with them, and then come in with a new approach.
Well, that's very optimistic of you.
Yeah, that's not advice I would probably take myself, but I'll give it to other people.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much, Erik, for joining me. Do you have anything you want to shout out, or anything like you'd like to promote?
Absolutely not, except just love yourself. Love whatever that heart is inside of you. If it's villainistic, if it's hero, whatever, just, do you, honey, and work, slay, sashay.
Thanks again. And we're going to end the episode today. I'm going to replay Tiana's Cruella de Vil poem from our very first episode. It's the very first thing she ever wrote for this podcast, and still one of my favorite poems. A lot of really neat turns of phrase and interesting ideas. The poem is called Cruella de Void, and here it is.
Cruella de Vil, Cruella de Vil, if she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will. To see her is to take a sudden chill. Cruella, Cruella. Window curtains drape across my Persian Sirocco rug in the bedroom. The bare head above my bed frame is my protector of the night. My bedtime routine includes my henchmen washing my face to clear out my pores, a personal percussionist to help chime my way to sleep, and a maid to smooth out my comforter that took 20 rabbits to sew. I am the worst, but I am also the best. My walk is as fierce as if I split open the Red Sea with satin leather heels. Every time I trot on London streets, you tell your children not to end up like me. I am a jailbreaker ahead of my time. I strut in the path of suburban sidewalks that are tired of the housewife's cackles in the morning. A pair of pliers bred your last logical reason for looking. I know you cook by the stove. Your only subconscious wish is to be me. You cook the meatloaf for the 3rd time this week. You think, if you were as free. You are the neighborhood's trophy of hushed whispers during your summer porch get-togethers. I am every one of your guests' secret daydreams on lonely Sunday afternoons. God only gives us wings when we are ambitious enough to use them. Each day is a flight worth taking. The wind between the feathers I wear brushes off any ounce of care. I lie in bed by myself, emitting independence toward the sky. Each night I feel a calming breeze, knowing the only love I need is the comfort of rabbit fur beside me. How content I am in the basket of luxury. But certain nights are different. I smoke long parliaments in bed, hoping the hours pass by quickly. The memories are movie screens that flash on the ceiling at 3 a.m. The letters, the war, the Suez Canal. His sacrifice for them meant blood draining down the sand. The war never blamed the Italians enough. The only human I will ever love. He was a dust in a forgotten air, a piece of filth in the quicksand of defeat. He was a dog on a stick. Only the tags around his corpse shed light on his name. The day the police in hats took my doorstep is the day I decided life had to be mine to own. The cannons in 1940 killed my reason to give precedence to those who are not human. If you yearn to keep your animals safe, clean, and dry, why didn't you people yearn to save the person worth being good and tame for? So I married the other one and gained 5 bank accounts. The clock has seen how often I stare at the fireplace glistening in the dark. I work on forgetting late-night disparities for good. In the meantime, I step into polar bear and yearn to wear Dalmatian as if I own the world. She's like a spider waiting for the kill. Look out for Cruella de Vil.